Hey guys, Paralysis here, and we're back with the second episode of Monster Hunter Investigations. So we're going to be looking at status ailments today. First up, before we jump into this video, I want to say if you like this series of Monster Hunter Investigations, if you like all the information we have for you, make sure you hit the like button, put in the comments what you want to see in next week's investigation video, and also hit that subscribe button for more Monster Hunter content as well as other games. And feel free to check me out on Twitch, the link will be in the description. I'm doing Monster Hunter all the time, we're doing speedruns. I'm a Switch-Axe main, we're experimenting with bow and all kinds of stuff, so definitely come over and check me out there. So the first thing to know about abnormal status ailments in Monster Hunter World is what status ailments there actually are. So there is poison, sleep, paralyze, KO, which is knockout, exhaust, mounting, elder seal, and also blast. So there's quite a few in the game, and we're going to talk about how they work because a lot of people don't quite seem to understand. The first thing to know about status ailments that cover all of the ones we've just talked about is that in order to inflict them, it is a percentage chance on hit to inflict that status ailment, with a few exceptions that we'll talk about in a second. But that means if you run into a fight and you are using a melee weapon, for example, let's say the greatsword or the dual blades, every time you get a single hit, you have a chance to apply status damage. Every creature has a threshold as to how much status damage they can take before the status is inflicted on them. For example, if a creature has 100 status threshold for poison, you have to do 100 poison damage in order to make them actually become poisoned. An important thing to know is that because you're not hitting it every single time, this can actually take longer than you think, as normally you may see yourself hitting for 100 damage if the monster has 100 poison threshold, but not inflicting the poison itself because you haven't activated poison on that particular swing of your weapon. One quick important thing to note is that we do not have all of the threshold amounts for every single creature in Monster Hunter World. There is that information for some previous Monster Hunter games, but in World we don't have that information quite yet. So to give a visual example of what I'm meaning by proccing the status ailment damage, you can see in the background I'm swinging my paralyzed switch axe, and on some hits I'm getting a lightning effect, and on other hits I am not getting a lightning effect. That is because it's not hitting on every single hit, only on a certain amount, and that percentage is roughly about 30% of your hits are going to inflict the status. You can also see this with a different switch axe I have that has sleep damage. On some hits there's a little puff with some bubbles, and on other hits there is not. That is the sleep activating and then not activating. A very important exception to this rule is ranged weapons. As you can see with a light bowgun, I am shooting the different ammo types, and every single hit is inflicting the status damage. It will not have a chance to activate with ammo types, and also bow coatings. It will be 100% chance to inflict the status ailment. As you can see in the background, the bow is also inflicting the status proc on every single hit with the applied coating. So now that you know that melee weapons is a chance to activate, and you can see visually when it is actually applying that damage, and that you also know ranged weapons are guaranteed to activate because you are consuming the ammo or bow coating, now you need to know why it is that seemingly across the length of the match your statuses inflict less and less and require more and more work to get the next one to activate. This is because, like we talked about, there is a threshold to make them hit in order to actually activate the status, but every time you inflict that status, the threshold increases by a set amount up to a maximum cap. Now, while we don't know the exact numbers for all the different statuses on all the different creatures, we can go back to our poison example. If there is a 100 damage poison threshold to inflict poison, and it is increasing by a flat 50 for every time you inflict poison on him, that means that the first poison will be 100 poison damage, the next will be 150, the next will be 200, the next will be 250, and perhaps it could cap at 300, and then you'd have to do that 300 poison damage each time in order to get the poison to activate from there forwards. Furthermore, there is also a decaying rate to the status ailment damage that you inflict. For example, if you inflict 90 poison damage onto that creature and then you stop attacking him, that number will actually go down over time, requiring you to do more poison damage to hit the threshold once again. And this decaying rate is unknown to us, but it applies to every status, so make sure if you are applying a status ailment that you keep on doing it until it activates, or it will be lost and decay over time. Another thing to note is that statuses that inflict conditions such as paralyze, sleep, KO, Exhaust, as well as Mounting seem to have a decaying rate in the duration of the inflicted effect. For example, if you inflict Paralyze successively on the same target, it will actually have a lower duration for each Paralyze that you do after the first. There's a few little bits of extra information that you may want to know about status ailments that I will cover now. The first thing is that traps do not count as status ailments. The shock trap is not the Paralyze status, and the pitfall trap is different to all the other status ailments themselves, but they do follow the same logic of the reduced effect per trap inflicted. So for example, if you use one shock trap, it will last longer than the next and the next after that. Additionally, if you want to make the most out of your status effects, make sure that you slot the correlating decorations into your armor that add build up and flat rates to your status inflicted damage. Furthermore, there is a food, the Feline Specialist, that you can get in the canteen, and this food increases the rate at which you inflict status ailments. It's really good. Make sure that you use this one if you are a focused status build. Furthermore, there is the Apothecary Mantle that increases the probability of triggering status build-up when attacking with weapons. That means you're going to be hitting more often, if not 100% of the time from my testing, as well as inducing abnormal statuses more often, so you can use it with bows and also bowguns to make it build up faster. This is a really good mantle if you're a status build. I 100% recommend you take it with you. So now that you understand how statuses work in this game, how the abnormal ailments affect creatures in this game, I will give you a tip, and that is that faster hitting weapons are better for status inflicting effects. Now the reason for this is, as we'd covered, if you have a chance to get your status inflicting damage per hit, then you are going to be wanting to be hitting a lot in order to proc that status effect, of course excluding bowguns and bows. So the dual blades, as well as the sword and shield, and even the insect glaive, the faster hitting weapons are much better for inflicting things like sleep, paralyze, and all of the other statuses in the game, whereas a slow hitting weapon like the great sword or the hammer are just not as good. However, that doesn't mean that they aren't viable. You could bring the Apothecary Mantle along and then you will be getting guaranteed status damage with those big heavy hitting attacks, inflicting those statuses very quickly. But it has been known in the past Monster Hunter games, and it still applies to Monster Hunter World, that the faster hitting weapons are much better for status inflicting effects. One thing I would like to address very quickly is Elder Seal. I get asked a lot on stream, what is Elder Seal, because a lot of weapons have it on them as a status. Well, it is a status like everything else. It will build up and it will affect Elder Dragons and only Elder Dragons, and what it does is it prevents them from doing their special auras and special abilities quite as often. An example of this is Teostra's Fire Aura, as well as his Supernova attack. Well guys, I hope you all now know all about the abnormal status ailments in Monster Hunter World. I hope this video helped you. Let me know in the comments if it did help you and what investigation you would like to see next time. I, of course, have been Paradise. You can check me out over on Twitch live streaming. The link will be in the description of this video. I hope you'll come and check it out. Leave a like and subscribe if you liked this video and it helped you guys out. Make sure you share it to your friends so they understand how status works too in Monster Hunter World. Appreciate you all watching. Hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time.